In 2025, I first participated in a big competition called the Rockies Awards. I entered with another animated video I made in only 2.5 months, and it was a 40-second video about my OCs that I hope someday to make a series about. I didn't get any plays, I didn't even make it to the finals, but I was proud of my work and I love improving myself. So after that, I already thought about making better and longer animation for the next year. Though I got caught up in many different personal things and project that didn't even have an idea was pushed until it was around February. And after a while of brainstorm, I finally got an idea of a story I wanted to tell in my short film. Since I didn't have much time, I started with character design and a short description of the main idea of the animation. Then I wrote more detailed version and then another that served as instructions for the storyboard. Then I made a hand-drawn storyboard in a super small size so I wouldn't get distracted by unnecessary details. To speed up the process, I transferred the pictures to Clip Studio and drew on top of it. Once the main scenes were done, I put some sounds to match the pace. One of my biggest mistakes was that I didn't record the process and now I'm just showing you the aftermath. When the animatic was done, the worst part began, at least for me, it's the music. If you have ever tried to find matching music that doesn't have copyright, you understand what an absolute pain it is. Unfortunately, I don't have music degree that would give me the ability to write my own songs for my animations, so I had to scroll through hundreds of copyright-free tracks to find the match. By the way, the music you hear in the final version was added the day before release. All those 4 months of production, it had another music on it. Once I finished with the sound on animatic and animatic itself, it was time to move to the backgrounds, palettes, and character colors. If you're not that good with drawn backgrounds like me, then this might help to simplify your struggle. So I used Illustrator to break the background into simpler shapes. Also, it's way easier to change color without switching between layers. And of course, I had to use some references for the bar and other locations because, well, I suck at drawing backgrounds. I even thought about making it in 3D just to understand the depth better, but after 20 minutes of trying to shape the bar, I realized I'm wasting the little time I had. So I went back to Illustrator. Some of the illustrations were good and some, well, this. I wanted everything to have one line color, but not black. So I used this color. I'm sure it has its own name, like Creole. Oh, okay. I redrew all backgrounds and it finally started to look like something decent. But for the next project, I want everything to have its own color for more realistic effect. For character design, I had 3 variations. I love them all, they're so cute to me. Even though the winner was Golden Brown Mouse, you can see other outfits in the final cut as well. I copied the same model and threw a few variations and an apron on her. It's a quick way to see if the colors match and don't look too distracting. If you work with a new model or a new style you are not familiar with, the best you can do for yourself is to make a character test. Simple 360 turn, head turn, some emotions. I also ran a hand and sweater test, so I'll keep that in mind when animating an actual scene. So again, not much time and it was time to move on to animating the scenes. I had many layers, like really a lot. And to not get confused at the start, I gave each of them its own color. It was the first time I drew the steam myself, but I have seen animations of steam before, so it gave me a general idea how to make it. Sometimes trusting the process actually works. Not always though. After all preparations, the most time-consuming part began with the animation itself. In total, I had 16 hand-drawn scenes and the rest was done in After Effects. Don't get me wrong, I love 2D. I mean, only a truly passionate person would dedicate dozens of hours to one scene. Most of the scenes weren't that difficult because they were close-ups. The challenging parts were scenes 16, 17, and 18. And as you probably guessed by now, it's because of her legs. The walking cycle itself is a challenging thing to do, and honestly, I don't have that much experience with it. The biggest struggle was, of course, with scene 16. I redrew it, I don't remember how many times. I want to say that I was too sure of myself to make it without a reference and drew it raw. The first time. Obviously, the result was not that good. So I made a self-reference and redrew it a couple more times. And once I was satisfied with the result, I forgot about the tail and moved on. Actually, I forgot about the tail in every single scene it had to be in. And I returned it to add it after sometimes when the scene was already painted. And I suddenly realized something was missing. But honestly, frame animation is my favorite part. Even when I'm struggling, tired, or it takes days to make one scene, it just gives so much satisfaction to see the final result. And slowly but surely, we are coming to the final stages. Most of those 4 months took line animation itself. I would say around 2.5 months. So, once all of them were done, I checked if everything was aligned and started painting. If you are using Clip Studio and you know a few tricks, it might increase your speed twice. For example, there is a tab where you can assign certain actions to your keyboard. What I use is a new animation frame, next frame, and previous frame. I assigned them to the most comfortable keys by position. For me, it's Q, A, and S. They are very close together and it makes it so much faster, especially when you are coloring. I found out about it about a year ago, and my life hasn't been the same ever since. For about 2 weeks, I colored all the scenes. One of the things that was more interesting during that part was her ears. I used the mask animated layer to keep the part within the light pink area to avoid any additional work. I'm glad I took an extra step because it looks more complete like that. I also wanted to make shadows once I was done with the coloring, but after trying it on the first scene, I understood that it's going to be very difficult and I don't have enough time. So instead of a typical hard shadows, I again used masks. And I gotta tell you, it worked amazingly. Because I split almost every part of the mouse into separate animated layers, I could throw masks on her parts of the body separately. It allowed me to make her look more dimensional. In the end, I made a few scenes in After Effects, like the background clock and that moving back in scene 7, also the effect of the painting being revealed. I drew a hand, then the painting and the paint itself as 3 different layers. Hand and the paint were given the color that could be distinguished by the key color feature in After Effects. I had to use some masks as well to make sure nothing is out of the line and looks nice and clean. For a few scenes, I needed light to change, so instead of rendering it all together in Clip Studio like I did for most of the scenes, I saved it as PNG and then gave it a multiply or overlay mode so it would mesh into the scene how it's supposed to. After all that, I also added this little dust effect. It's called Particle Systems. It's a bit tricky if you use it for the first time, but some nice tutorials on YouTube will help you get ahead of it. Now everything was looking very nice and neat. What I added in the end was a few extra sounds like key, door closing, the sound of the easel opening, and a very important part which will help you to make everything sound more realistic, simply the outside noise. On last day of May, I was finishing everything, just polishing and placing some info, the title, and then I thought of trying another music I found in the very beginning. And after playing with it for a little bit, I noticed that it fit even better than my first choice, so I kept it in the final version. There's not much more for me to tell you, honestly. I want to thank each one who stopped by and watched this video. I hope you liked it or found it somehow useful. It was my first time doing something like that, and I liked it, but I'm not sure if I will be able to post so regularly. Because I don't have that much content, and most of the time I'm passive on social media. Even though promotion on socials is everything for a no-name artist. That will be it for today. Have a good one, and good night.
Good morning! Oh, and in case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.